Hello. Hi, everyone. Is anyone on? If you're on, just please, comment, say something in the chat. Hi, John. Hi, John. How are you? Can you hear me? It's my first time being live, so just bear with me. I'm trying to figure out this thing. Hi, Joy. Let me see, as if my camera looking a bit like it needs some loving. Yeah, this looks better. Definitely. Okay. Awesome. I was a bit concerned that persons would not be able to hear me loud and clear. All right, I'm just going to wait for probably a few more people to come on before I start talking. Hi, Mom. Shanika. Welcome, welcome. Feel free to share the live. It's okay. You all can share it. The purpose of today is to raise some awareness on a condition called fibromyalgia. Okay, I think I can go ahead and begin. Well, I guess you can see the description. It says fibromyalgia awareness, a personal touch. Now, up until last year, fibromyalgia was a condition that I only heard about during advertisements. So whenever they were advertising, hi, cuz, whenever they were advertising some medication, you would hear them, in speaking, they would say fibromyalgia. But it wasn't something that I paid much attention to up until it affected me. So yes, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia last year. And I must say that it has not, hi mom, it has not been easy. Um, Now, what exactly is fibromyalgia? Fibromyalgia is a chronic condition that, and by chronic I mean it is long term. It's a chronic condition that affects basically your entire body. And I'll just give you a few of the main symptoms. First one being pain. We're talking about generalized body pain, ankles, knees, elbows, wrists. Hi, Richards. We're talking about wrists, your fingers, just body pain in general. And also you have stiffness, muscle stiffness. Another one of the main conditions, symptoms of fibromyalgia is fatigue. So yes, there are days when I would actually sleep during the day for 5 to 6 hours, just sleep. And that's all I want to do. And when I wake, all I want to do is go back to sleep. Now, interestingly enough, insomnia can also happen with fibromyalgia. Um, it's either you struggle to fall asleep or you struggle to stay asleep. And sometimes I experience both. So sometimes I will stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning, and to me it feels like day just broke, as we would say. Um, and so it has been really tough. Another symptom of fibromyalgia is brain fog, or what is termed as fibro fog. Now it means that you don't think clearly all the time, and your brain is just basically in a fog. There's so much confusion going on. There's so much like you don't know, and associated with that, closely associated with that, is memory issues. And so simple things, simple words, I tend to forget. I remember once trying to describe something to my mom, and I was like, the thing in the bathroom, the long thing, the long thing, mommy, the long thing. And for the life of me, I couldn't remember it was the hose or the shower head. And there was another incident that to this day I can't remember it. I have absolutely no memory, where um, I had to take my medicine at a certain time. For the purposes of this exercise, let's just say it was 12 o'clock. And it was like maybe about 5 minutes past that time. And I asked, but why didn't my alarm go off? But there was someone close to me and they said, but your alarm went off and you turned it off. I was like, what? I don't remember hearing my alarm. And I kept on trying to remember, trying to remember when my alarm went off and when I turned it off, and I still don't have any recollection of that. So yes, so we have fibro fog. Associated with it is memory issues, and there are a host of other things. Temperature regulation issues. So we're talking about there were moments when everybody else is feeling hot and I am feeling extremely cold, as in my feet are cold, my hands are cold, and I am literally trembling. There are a number of things, sensitivities to different things, dizziness, and a whole host of things. But looking at me right now, would you say that I am dealing with this? Would any of you think that? Looking at me sitting in front of you right now, would you think that? I highly doubt it. Because the thing about fibromyalgia is that it is considered an invisible illness. It is one of the invisible illnesses. So you can't really tell per se, but the person is actually dealing with a lot. Now, I forgot to mention something earlier when I mentioned the pain. What happens with fibromyalgia is that your brain actually sends out pain signals that is magnified. So in other words, a simple touch might feel like somebody boxed you down. So that is something very interesting about fibromyalgia. Another thing that is very interesting to note about fibromyalgia is that everybody's experience is different in terms of the symptoms that they experience, as well as the severity of the pain and all of these things. Now, there isn't any cure for it at this time. However, there are ways that you can, that fibromyalgia can be treated. And those ways include one, through the use of medication, and two, therapy. We're talking about physiotherapy as well as counseling. And whilst I'm on the aspect of counseling, I'm just going to share my experience with fibromyalgia. Last year was a really, really, really tough year for me, in the sense that initially I didn't know what was wrong. Neither did the doctors who were handling my case at the time. And so several tests were being done and everything was coming back okay. So of course it begs the question, what is wrong? Then of course you have the locals, we usually say, oh, it's obia, or maybe you're not eating well, or something like that. And so there's all of this confusion, there's all of this grief. I will say grief. Although it's not, we don't generally associate, let me rephrase that. Although we generally associate grief with death, but grief is so much more than that. I grieved for a while. I grieved my former self. I grieved who I was. I grieved all what I could do. I grieved my potential, if you want to look at it this way, because in my mind, there's so much that I could offer, so many things that I wanted to do, so many things that I could do, but here I was, stuck in bed with all this pain, unable to do all the things that I have up here to do, and just feeling sorry for myself, essentially, and thinking about my future in terms of my job, in terms of relationships with others, in terms of being a good mother, in terms of being a provider, in terms of being a good daughter, with my mother being sick. Imagine that. My mom has been home sick for quite some time and she's actually stronger than I am. Imagine that. That should say something. And so you have all of these, well, I shouldn't say you. I had all of these things, plaguing me, and I wasn't really sure how to process it, because at the time I was the strong one for everybody else. So how can I be weak, quote unquote, weak at this point in time? But it wasn't until December last year when I did a recap of 2025, and I don't know if persons looked at that video where I did comparison between my two realities, the reality where you see me looking bright and nice, and the other one where you see me looking where I was, in hospital, in my bed, and all of these things. And then I know it was God who placed on my heart something that I was able to kick off my year with. He placed on my heart what I would call a renewed purpose. So I no longer felt as sorry for myself, and I started to, with God's help, realize that, hey, I can be useful again, because yes, I forgot to say that I did feel useless, completely useless to everybody. So at that point in time, I felt like I can be useful again. And then God, placed on my heart different things to do, and that's where I started the website. And the website, through the reflections that I shared, persons would reach out to me privately a lot of the times to share how much these things resonated with them. And then I started to feel like, hey, okay, maybe my value is not necessarily tied up or tied to um, my former identity, if you want to call it that, or what I used to offer to people. Maybe this is really an opportunity to pivot, to still be useful, irrespective of where I am. And so I remember Pastor Pending, yes, I'll call his name, sharing that he's happy to see how my misery is now my mission. And I think that's what God really wanted to happen, to turn my misery into my mission. Yes, I am praying for healing. We believe in miracles over here. And I am praying for healing, but at the same time, I am still being used by God, no matter where I am or no matter how I am at this point in time. And I will say that it isn't easy. As I mentioned earlier on, there's much grief associated with it. With the grief comes depression, comes feelings of hopelessness. But I am very thankful to God for placing people in my life who have been great source of support, strength, and guidance. So I will start off with my mother. Thank you. God has my back for you. And yes, Joy, we believe in miracles. I will start off with my mother. She doesn't know this, but I remember often crying and saying, why am I weaker than my mom at this point in time? I should be taking care of her, not the other way around. And so oftentimes when I would try to do things, she would say, yeah, go back and lie down. What are you doing? What are you doing? You know already. And I would just feel so useless. But I still want to say publicly, thanks, Sophia. Yes, that exactly was the intention, to do it around that time. So those who are looking at my reading my reflections, you'll notice that I never stated what I was suffering with, and that was intentional. I wanted to wait until this day to share it. And so my mom, she really has been, not was, I'm still not 100%. She really has been a great source of support and strength. And even when she is not well herself, she still makes herself available for me. And I'm grateful for that. The rest of my family, I am grateful to you. There's also this special someone that I have who, man, goes above and beyond to take care of me. So I told someone this week that my mom takes care of me at home, and then I have somebody else who takes care of me when I go out. So I will say that I do have good support. I also want to say publicly thanks to my friends who check in on me. There's one young lady who she notices that I go too quiet. Joanna, big up yourself. She notices that I go too quiet. She will message me, something wrong. Why are you so quiet? Why are you so quiet today? So I want to say thanks for that. And I also want to say thanks for the medical team, the Marigot Health team. There was a time late last year into early this year when I would say practically every week I would need to go to the hospital, the health center, sorry, for pain management. And the nurses, the doctors, everybody, PHAs, they were really, helpful and I would say sympathetic towards me because I work with them partly and partly because I mean it's not easy to see somebody just in pain like that. So I'm really grateful for them, Dr. Fernandez, who is not with the team anymore, but I'm still grateful for him, and Dr. Bekele, Dr. Rabes, FNP Nixon, PHN Burton, all the nurses, Nurse Alfred, I mean, Nurse Daru, Africa, all of these nurses, they have been, Nurse Michael, I mean, I must say thank you to them and also to staff at Marigot Hospital because a few times I had to go there. So I want to say, yes, Joanna, yes, definitely. Yeah, I also want to say thanks to the other specialists that handle my care because I'm not only seen by just the Margaret Health team. I am seen by specialists, rheumatologists, or now I have to go to cardiologists and all of that. So I also want to say thanks to them because it's not easy. It's not easy, and nothing is to say that after I finish this live with all my smile and all my bright self, that I don't have pain later. It's unpredictable for the most part, but through it all, I'm still grateful for the persons who understand my pain, who understand where I am, and I just want to say that we should never discount the value of great support team and yes, thanks Jan. Yes, I realize that, and it's so important to support people through their challenges. And throughout my journey I realized that you know a lot of people are going through a lot, and they are suffering in silence, and most times we don't get to know that they are suffering simply because we ask the question, how are you, not with intention but actually just to make small talk. But I just want to encourage us to be intentional about asking people how they are. So when you ask someone, how are you doing, be ready to get an answer and actually listen to that person. Because I found myself at times realizing that when somebody asks me how I'm doing, I just use, well, for the most part, and I'm trying to be different now, but for the most part, I would just say, I'm fine, even if I am in pain and I can barely type because my fingers are hurting me. Thank you very much, Joy. And I just figured that um the person doesn't really want to know how I am doing. I don't think they have the capacity at this point in time to actually hear what I am going through, but I want to encourage us to please just listen to people. And yes, Joy, you're right, because as Joy is saying, in spite of what I am going through, I have shown support to so many people. I am part of a few fibromyalgia support groups on Facebook, and there are times when I go through, especially late at night when I'm not able to sleep, like most of us who are suffering with fibromyalgia, I'm not able to sleep. I would go online and I would be encouraged of sorts by the experiences of others, and I would reach out to those who I figure are most in need and privately reach out to them and lend a listening ear and reflect, just get them to speak their situation in an effort to ease their mind a little bit, because for those of you who don't know, I study behavioral sciences, And so I do have a background in mental health studies. And so well, again, I think all of that is what God has placed on my heart to do, to use my platform to help others, even in my current situation. And so, um, at times when I do speak to these people, they don't know that I am in pain too. I remember one particular day that three different people called me with their challenges, and here it is. I am actively offering reflective sessions with them and actively guiding them through their thoughts process. And I'm actively in pain. And when I'm finished with the call, I'm like, oh my God, my stomach, and I am in pain. But there's some satisfaction that comes, for me at least, in helping others, and I am grateful that God is using me to lend support to others. And so I will again admonish us all to please lend our support to anyone who we figure might be in need. Let me see if I covered everything that I wanted to touch on. So yes, we spoke about the value of community, and I will say that even though I do look like I am calm and composed and well put together and I have everything figured out, I don't. I do not have everything figured out. I am still learning my boundaries. I am still learning to live within my current limits. I am still learning to know when the rest is needed and when to push through. But I definitely have come a long way from where I am. I am actively seeking out any form of resources that I need. I'm actively seeking out any tools or any thing that is needed to make this journey for me much easier. And one of the things that persons would have seen as well, that I wrote a children's book, and I also did a journal. Partly this journal came because of what I was feeling, and I needed a place to write in the absence of being in a clinical setting with a counselor. And I figured, like, other people may need this too. So why not? Why be selfish and why be greedy? Why not just share it with others? She's spiritual mentoring. Yeah. Yes. Yes, Joanna. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you guys. And so I am still grieving parts of me, but I am loving this new path. It's different. And earlier this year, I remember being extremely concerned about what my future holds in terms of my work, because, again, for those who don't know, I am an environmental health officer by profession, which means that I'm a field officer, and currently in my state, I am not in any position to be on the field working. And so there is always the concern as to um, what happens next. But God gave me a word earlier this year, which I won't share right now. But God gave me a word earlier this year. At the appropriate time, I will share it. And that has helped to calm me down and helped me to just trust the process, and more importantly, trust Him through this entire experience. I have given a mouthful for I spoke for half an hour. Lord have mercy. Um, yeah. Does anyone have any questions for me? And remember, if you're asking me a question, there are more questions than answers in life. So yeah. Any questions? No, no questions. Yeah, that's I like it. Okay, guys. So this was me sharing something personal with you, opening up, which is something that I didn't want to do at first. I found it difficult to bring myself to tell people that I was sick. Um, like I said at one point, it saying that would mean that I am weak, but in reality, I think uh, that's actually the opposite right now. And thank you very much for listening. Where's the question? Did I miss it? Where's the question? I missed the question. Joanna, you have a question? What's the question? Okay. So how do I deal with it daily? Let's break it down. How do I deal with it minute by minute? Because that's literally how it is. Um, Sophia asks, how do you deal with it daily, on a daily basis? But she missed the beginning. Thank you very much, Joy, and thanks for your encouragement. Joy encouraged me through, wanting to go live, and we were supposed to do a dry run first, but we didn't get to do it. But Sophia, let me answer your question. The main symptoms of fibromyalgia are pain, generalized body pain. So you have aches and pains all over, mainly, well, not mainly, aches and pains all over your hands, your ankles, your knee, your back, your wrist, your elbow, fingers, like all over. And yeah, these are the main symptoms. Now, in terms of the pain I only mentioned the pain aspect. In terms of the pain, what happens is that your brain sends out pain signals that are magnified. And as I explained it earlier, somebody may do you this, and it may feel like the biggest punch you ever get in your life. In my case, one of the pains that I struggle with is if I were to lift something, if I were to try to grate, try to, yeah, thanks. If I try to knead at times, I would feel pain across my abs like I am doing an ab workout. That's the best way I have been describing it. It feels like I am doing an ab workout and I am stuck in the crunch, like I'm up and you're just stuck in that phase. And sometimes I would have that pain for an hour plus, and so, pain is one of the symptoms, the main symptoms. You also have fatigue. Yes, there definitely is a gut to brain link. I'll talk about that just now. You have, what was I saying? Fatigue, right? Fatigue. And we're not talking about a little tired, you're tired. We're talking about like, literally, I would say, I want to sleep and that's it. I just go to sleep and that's it. And sometimes if my dog doesn't wake me up, I can sleep for quite some time. The most I've slept in one shot during the day is like 6 hours, one shot. And we also have something called brain fog, but on fibro case they call it fibro fog, and with it is a link of memory issues. So you, especially short-term memory issues. Yes, and how do I deal with it daily? I cry when I need to. Yes, that's one way of dealing with it. I do have meds. If the pain is extreme, then I go to the health center for treatment. In terms of other things that I do, I try to manage my stress. Heavy on the word try, eh? I try to manage my stressors as much as possible because there is a link between stress and the symptoms that you feel. Um, what again do I do? I try to keep myself occupied, and not really focus on it too much. Well, that's what I'm doing now. But in the beginning, it really was difficult because it's like literally I would do something and it's like, oh my God, my stomach, oh my God, my foot, you know. But the pain is not as intense these days. Do I know of anybody else with it? That's a very interesting question. Before I answer that question, let me respond to the guts to brain link. Yes, there is a link. So, in fact, a lot of times persons with fibromyalgia actually have um, IBS with it, which is irritable bowel syndrome, and in which you have one of, well, three forms of it. The medical people in here can correct me if I'm saying something wrong, but anyway. You can either have the constipation type, the diarrhea type, or the mixed type, which you have a mix of, diarrhea or constipation. And in my case, I have the constipation type. And so whenever I do get um, IBS, an IBS flare up, I get a flare up of fibromyalgia, which means the pain. So I'm dealing with my stomach hurting, the swelling, all of this, the bloating, sorry, and I'm dealing with the body pains and all the other things relating to fibromyalgia. And what was I going to say? So, so I do have to also manage not getting a flare of fibromyalgia. Thank you very much, Mama Charles. A flare up of IBS. Sorry about that. Sophia asks a question again. What's the question? I'm trying to get your question. She asks, but in ways, I guess, symptoms. Do you? Let me try that. It keeps going back up. Okay. Do you know anyone else with it? Right. Um, I only know of one other person in Dominica with it. And although I know there are more, and I was told of another person who has it, but I am sure that there are a lot more persons in Dominica with fibromyalgia, and I really wouldn't mind getting to know them. I really have found that support is really good, and as I said, I joined some fibromyalgia support groups online. I saw one of the persons here on my live. Hi, Da. How are you doing? So I'm glad to see that you're using your strength to share with others. May God continue to draw more strength. Thank you so very much, Teacher Isaiah. Thank you. You're one of the persons who've been encouraging quietly in the background. And Richard says, just being able to share all this information about your condition and testing. Thank you so very much, Richard, for that. No, it isn't an autoimmune condition. So it's with autoimmune conditions, it would mean that essentially your body's fighting against itself. But fibromyalgia is not considered an autoimmune condition. It's actually considered a condition that is linked with your nervous system. Yeah, but it's not an autoimmune condition. Thanks, guys. Any other questions? Did I miss any? This is my first time doing a live, and I'm trying to navigate talking and figuring this out. So, did I miss any other question? All right. So it has been 41 minutes. I thought I was just going to talk for 15 minutes, but really and truly, all you I can talk plenty. Is the eye strong? John, not sure we used to talk plenty in school, not you, John? Julia, where are you? All right, guys. Now, if there are no more questions, oh, Rosin asked one. God have mercy, I cannot even see it. What did Rosalind ask? Food intolerances, yes. So yeah, man, it's probably easier for me to tell you all what I can tolerate rather than what I cannot tolerate at this point in time. Allah will like attack. You're right. Yes, yes, yes. Um, so maybe this I was pretty comfortable doing this. I really thought that I would have been extremely nervous and not being able to do it. But I'm happy that I got an opportunity to share with others my experience. Yes, the symptoms they do come in waves, and you don't get all the symptoms all at once. And there are times that you can get a new symptom, like I have experienced that something new pops up, and it's like, oh, okay. But at the same time, it can be very tricky because not because you have fibromyalgia and you have pain all over means that every single pain that you feel in your body is because of fibromyalgia. So it's still also important if you find something new that you would yes, it's also very important that if you um have a new symptom that you still, seek medical attention, because we don't want a case where you figure that pain is associated with fibromyalgia when in fact it isn't. A question is asked, when and where were you diagnosed with this condition? Well, I was diagnosed in Trinidad last year, October. That is after doing extensive testing. Thing about fibromyalgia, the diagnosis is made by excluding other illnesses. So there's no one specific test to say, well, I'm going to do this blood test and it's going to show up either I have it or I don't have it. You literally have to exclude other illnesses in order for a diagnosis to be made. And so I had to see a neurologist who did a lot of tests and a rheumatologist, and both of them would. Well, I also saw a gastroenterologist as well. I forgot. I well, mainly the neurologist and the rheumatologist, they worked hand in hand to come up with the diagnosis for me, and that's where I am. Yes, I'm happy that I got, because interestingly, when I like researching, and when I was diagnosed with it, of course I cried. I was like, oh my god! But then I was like, okay, the alternatives that it's not as bad as the alternatives, but yeah, I was very happy to know that I got diagnosed so soon, because when I read up, it says on average people take about 7 years to be diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And so um, I'm just happy. Happy you got help, since it definitely helps to put the word out there. I'm sure someone out there silently suffering. Probably. And if there's anybody who is suffering with fibromyalgia, please, guys, you can share the live. I'm not opposed to that. My profile is public. You can share it. And if there's anybody out there who wants to talk about it, then they are free to reach out to me, and we can talk. And thank you so very much, Mama Charles. Misty maybe give me a little encouragement as well. um, yeah, so it's not, it's not always easy. Um, I walk with a cane, guys. I walk with a cane. At first, I didn't want a cane because why would I want to walk with a cane? That's for persons who are actually disabled. That's what I was thinking. But in reality, I have come to recognize and realize and accept the fact that this is actually a disability. When you look at a lot of the forms online, fibromyalgia and IBS are also listed as disabilities. And so something is that I really want to advocate for very silently. Should I say silently? Something I want to advocate for is better accessibility for persons with disability in Dominica. And why? Because, you know, although I'm not well, I'm still the one who goes out of the home to do things for us. And so I have challenges. When I see a step, you might see just a flight of step to climb on, and I see, oh my goodness, me pain. I see pain, I see my knees shaking, I see all of these things. When I go to the supermarket and I start to feel cold sweat and all of these things happening to me, I'm like, where are the trolleys for me to drive? Or did you have some idea? Somebody asked an interesting question. If I Google diagnose myself first, well, no, the diagnosis that Google gave me was very scary. So I was somewhat relieved that that's what I had, because the options were not looking bright according to not Google, not Chat GPT. No, we use Chat GPT. No, not Google. We use Chat GPT. So I one of the conditions that it was thought of that I had was myositis. Well, either dermatomyositis or anyway, some of the myositis, which is an illness that you can go down very quickly. Well, not necessarily very quickly, but you can go down. There's no better. But in my case, it's not that I'm going to really die from fibromyalgia. It's just that my quality of life can be impacted. Once I find the correct combination of treatments, then there's a possibility, heavy on the word possibility, that I can live some form of normal life, some form. But it's not always the case. Research says that it takes about 2 years, 1 to 2 years, for you to really reach that point where you start to feel some semblance of normalcy being returned. And so for me, I am approaching the 1 year mark in June. And how do I feel about that? I'm hoping for the best, but I am working within what I have right now. And if my position changes to return back to who I was or what I could do, then I'll be grateful. But at the same time, I'm still grateful that God is using me in my position currently. Am I missing any question? Why it keeps going back up whenever we diagnose? It keeps going back up. Yes, Joy, I like to talk. So I actually just told myself that, you know what, I'm just going to do what I love to do best. I think that's what I told you earlier on when I spoke to you. I'm just going to talk. It keeps going back up. I swear I didn't see you with a cane when I saw you in February. Where exactly did you see me? When did I get that cane? I got the cane. I can't remember. But sometime earlier this year, I actually got the cane because initially what I was using was an umbrella. That's what I was using. I used to walk around with an umbrella in my hand. And so, I mean, probably you wouldn't even figure out the purpose of it. And until one day when I tried to climb my stairs, my knees felt too weak and the umbrella felt too weak, well, too fragile to withstand my weight. And so I had to, get a cane. So yes, so probably really when you saw me in February, I did not have a cane, but I did have to get one. Thank you, Sophia. Definitely agree. You should have this. Okay, you can have some support. Yes, definitely with the cane I can have some support. It keeps going back. Yes, you calling it our cousin chat. I say my bestie chat GPT. All right. All right, guys. Yes, that's where I saw you. Right. So I must have had. I remember, that's where we met in Jolly's. So I must have had an umbrella at that point in time when we met. If you didn't see me with a cane, I must have had an umbrella at that point in time. So yeah, well. Let me hold up on that. The research, Lilworth, I'm reading your comments. Um, the research shows that there's a possibility that should I say it's hereditary, but family persons in your family could have it. So like we believe that my mom probably has it, but that's a belief until it's proven. Um, but there's a possibility that somebody in your family may have had it. So definitely. Why is it showing up at this late stage of your life? Um, in terms of the reason why or the causes of fibromyalgia, I have seen it's not really, there's no real conclusion as to why people get fibromyalgia. Sometimes it shows up from what I see after some stressful events. Sometimes it shows up after some trauma, as in probably some physical trauma, probably had an accident. So there are different reasons why it shows up. Can environmental factors trigger the onset? I didn't see anything to point to that, but again, well, not again, I shouldn't say again, I didn't mention that before. Fibromyalgia, there's still a lot of research to be done on the condition, and so scientists, the medical community, they're still torn on certain points as it relates to fibromyalgia. Before I join, but is it genetic? Mama Charles, I think I just answered that part about if it's genetic. It can be, but I'm not sure to what extent. Auntie Gillian, yeah, thanks. God will definitely see me through. Did I answer everybody's question? Um, do you have any family? No, and Mama Charles, I didn't answer the last part of your question though. Do I have any other family members with it? Not that I know of. As I said, we suspect my mom probably has it, but there's no conclusion on that. Well, guys, if there is no other question, I just want to say, when do you think? That's a very good question. So, when do you think was your first symptom? Um, I would want to say from 2020. I would want to say that. However, ideally, January last year. It's kind of complicated. I was trying not to go into all of it, but 2020, I slipped and fall, and I hurt myself. So after reading the facts that you can get it, after reading you can get it after some traumatic event or some accident, I figured that probably that's where it started. However, um, I will just simplify it by saying last year June. I will just simplify it by saying last year June. All right. I like to talk to see. I like to talk to see. I have all questions. All right, guys. But unfortunately, I have to end this live now. It was really nice. Yes, I will try. The first time was a hit, so I will try to come on more. I don't really show my face online. I would post words, I would post pictures of other things except myself. However, I'm going to try to be more intentional about being out there. Thanks, Joy, again for giving me the little push to do the live. So thank you guys for interacting. And if anybody is listening to this afterwards, feel free to leave your questions. I will always come back and check to see if it was responded to. You're welcome, and do enjoy the rest of your evening.